Hi there and welcome to JCB Tools. My name's Adrian and today we're going to look at this petrol wood chipper from JCB. So this is the JCB CH75100P. Means it's pretty much a 7.5 horsepower petrol engine and it's got 100 mil chipping capacity. 224cc petrol engine, wonderful bit of equipment. So I'm going to show you how to put it together and we'll start by showing you the easiest way to open the box. So as you can see, it comes in this sturdy packing case when it arrives to you. So if I just take a screwdriver that will fit in this hole on these tabs on the top, just bend them up somewhere around 90 degrees. And I'll go all around the case doing that to start with. So if I just take a common set of pliers now, I'll hold those tabs and just bend them up into the upright position. So I'll do these two. Okay, now that will now allow us to remove the lid. So you may find that on these tabs here, whoops, just give yourself a little bit of clearance between the two layers of sheet metal. Screwdriver again, ideal tool for this, and that allows the tab to come up out and the lid to come off. So I've got all the tabs in the upright position now. That will allow me to remove the lid. Now, just from experience, I've opened many of these boxes and the edges of this metal part around the outside can be quite sharp. I've got experience of it, as you say, or as I say, so I'm used to doing it without cutting myself. But I do recommend that you wear a pair of gloves when removing the lid and dealing with the packing case. So having opened the box, you'll find lots of loose components in the box itself. So it's best to take all the loose components out and put them to one side first. So a few other tools that come with the machine. Obviously we have this T-socket here. It does come with a universal spanner. It does come with a spark plug spanner, which is in this bag here. And of course the user manual. Now in there is the user manual for the chipper and the engine manual as well, giving more details on the engine. So we do recommend that you read both of these manuals thoroughly before you use them. And obviously if you watch this video, you won't need the instructions how to put it together. Okay, so the tools I've used doing this, let's start with the spanners. I've used an 18mm and a 19mm spanner, 10mm spanner, 13 and 14mm spanner. That covers the spanners needed. You also need a 22mm spanner for the wheels. If you've got a socket set, metric socket set, that's ideal. And obviously a metric spanner set, that would cover it. So I've taken all the loose components out of the box and we're left with the main motor chipper unit in the box. Now I do recommend that you get assistance when lifting it out of this crate. I do have a method to get it out myself, but 2 people on this one, please. So there is a comprehensive instruction manual with this unit that shows you how to put it together. I'm going to do it my way, but I find this easier and I'm sure you will too. So it's just the order of operations. So I've got the unit out here on the floor. I've just put a bit of protection there and I'm going to lean it down. It's not too heavy so that it's protected on the packing. We need to fit the axle for the wheels. So the other component you need to get is this part here, which is the main axle. So you'll see on the axle that it comes with all the bolts pre-assembled in the hole. So I'm going to go looking for the right bolts. We just take each component, remove the bolts, and then put them in the right place. So I'll just take these 2 bolts out, and you will see I had a pair of spanners in my hand. We need an 18 and a 19mm spanner for this. So the axle goes in here, this way round, in this slot, and you'll see the V slot here, holes in the axle, and it fits in there. So we'll locate that in there. I'll remove one of the washers. Take a washer and the nylock nut. Feed a bolt through from the bottom. Just find the hole. There we are. That's one in. And just on the inside here, fit 1 washer. And I'll fit 1 nut loosely. Okay, that's got it started so it doesn't fall, and I'll do the same with the next one. So second bolt going in, you can see the bolt sticks through on the inside. Washer, just being careful with the wires, and we'll get the nut started. So with the axle in place, the 2 bolts in place, I've got a 19mm spanner on the nut and an 18mm on the bolt, and I'll just get this one started. We'll get him down so far till he's almost tight, and then I'll start on the other one. So with the axle in place, now it's time to fit the wheels. Straightforward enough. 22mm spanner this time. I'll take the nut and the washer off. And when we fit the wheels, we look for the tyre valves. They go on the outside. Okay, so I've pushed the wheel on with the washer, On with the nylock nut. A 22mm spanner. If you've got a socket set, by all means use a socket set for this, make it a lot easier for you. So I'll wind him in, keep going until it stops. Now you'll see that wheel is now binding. So with it being a nylock nut, I can just ease it back a little and the wheel now spins. Well, somewhat freely. I could go a little looser. Doesn't make a lot of difference because it's running on bearings. So the method is down till you feel it stop, maybe back one flat. That's the job done. If you find you're having difficulty getting the wheel on the axle, you'll notice inside and between the two main bearings, there's a spacer. That's to protect the bearings when you tighten it up. So if I just line that back up into the center, remember that when I'm putting it onto the axle. So you can do it from the outside, very difficult for me to show. But as I put it on, I'll just lift the spacer up so that it's not, the axle when it enters isn't hitting on the spacer. Okay, so with the wheels both in place, if I pick the unit up again now, I'll just rest it there. And if I spin it round, just carefully spin it round. There we are. As I said earlier, if you've got two of you, we'll make it a lot easier. So I'm just going to tip it now, right over, onto its back again, onto a bit of protection. That gives me access to the other end. So one thing of note, and be careful here guys, the drum here that does the chipping, as you can see, it's quite inert as it stands, but if I were to rotate it round, you can see the sharp chipping blade come out. So wearing gloves is probably a must. I've done this several times, put these machines together, but wear some gloves and be very wary of this blade. So I'm just going to tip that back in again. So the next component we want is this one. When we come to assemble this, it goes on this way round. And you'll see there are 4 holes in the bottom of the machine. They actually have captive nuts in the holes. But again, we've supplied the correct bolts in the correct holes on the component, but we don't need to use the nuts. So what I'll do is take all of these out and we'll put them back in one at a time, but we don't need to use these nuts. Hold the foot in one hand, get one bolt started, line up the holes. There we go, that's that one started. You get the picture. We'll have all 4 in. So 13mm spanner this time, guys. We'll just get them started. We won't tighten any of them down until we've got the 4 in and we're somewhere near tight. We'll get them all pulled down now that we've got them all at the bottom. And once we get them to that point, final tightening of all 4 bolts. So I'll just hold it by this end, flip her up, and there we are. We got the axles and all the lower parts fitted. The front foot, the rear axle and the wheels. So the next thing we've got is the drawbar. We'll fit this next. Again, the bolt is already in the hole for you. So I'll just take the washer and the nut off. Fit the drawbar into the front here. Okay, and we'll just wait till we line up the holes. Put the washer on. Put the nut on. And tighten the bolt. Be very careful because that sharp blade could be, as we said earlier, around this area. Always better to be cautious and keep that out of the way. The next job we're going to do is put the chute on here to make sure that that's out of harm's way. So let's get that blade out of harm's way. I've got the smaller of the 2 chutes. You'll see 2 hinge pins, one at the top, one at the bottom, and 2 receptacles on the machine. There we go. Give them a little wiggle, slide it down into place. Sooner we get this on, the sooner we get that dangerous blade out of our way. Bolts are in place, as we've seen with all the other implements. I'll take the nuts and the washers off. So you'll notice down here, a safety feature, little interlock switch. This guard is open, the engine will stop or the engine will not start if you try. Obviously, we don't want a rotating blade exposed where you can get caught. So we just close the flap, washer on, spring washer, and a nut. I'll do the same on the bottom. Big washer, spring washer, and the nylock nut. Again, 13mm socket. And we'll tighten them up. Okay, so we'll just tighten those 2 up. We'll nip the top one down first till we see no gap. I'll do the same with the bottom one. Make sure we're tight. We don't want them vibrating loose when we're using it. And that, because they're nice and tight, it makes sure that we're meeting that little switch down there, which will allow it to work. So we're going to put the outlet chute on now. If I just loosen this nut off here and wind that screw back, and I'll also wind back the quick release screw here, we can put the hopper in place. And it sits down neatly on the top here. Okay, and as you can see, during operation, you can rotate it. If I just screw that screw in, and I've felt it go tight, I'm going to come back half a turn, and then do up the nut. Just lock the nut. We'll just make sure that it still rotates, which it does. Then I can lock the other side, which will lock it all firmly in place. So if I want to rotate the outlet chute, I can simply undo the handle here, maybe a turn, and I can rotate to send the chippings whichever direction I want. Okay, and to lock it, simply do up the handle on the back. So much the same as the other side. The last big component is the main inlet chute. I'll just line up the pins, drop it into place. I've already removed the nuts and washers, and I can swing it round almost into the closed position. So as you can see, there's a bit of compression here where it's trying to pull down on the gasket and it's holding me off. What I do is put just a washer on, leave the spring washer temporarily. Let's just do that nut up. And on the bottom one, I can go washer, spring washer, and nut. Saves me having to hold it there the whole time. Okay, and with that done, just undo the top one again, then put the spring washer on that one. Just gives you a little bit more room. So on with the spring washer. Let me just pull a little compression. You can do the bottom one up a little. Now I can get, again, my 13mm spanner onto these two nuts. So we have a few more components to fit at this end of the hopper, but you'll see underneath there's a safety switch here, and there's also an emergency stop on the top. So we need to connect these electrically to the machine. Now this can be a stumbling point on these machines if you don't know how to do it. I'll show you that next and where the connection is. The lead here, when it's supplied to you, it's tucked through the reinforcing web here. So we just pull it out, connect it up, and you'll see a little lug on the plug, little lug on the socket, connect the two together. We can just tuck that back up underneath the inlet chute. And as you can see, on the outside of this are 4 holes. They have the long bolts, and then there's 3 short bolts in the center. Just remember that. Again, all the bolts are in position. We're going to take them off, put them back in. Just bear in mind, short ones in the center, and then 4 long ones on the outside. So ring of 7 holes around the inside of here, 7 holes in here, 3 in the bottom, longer bolts in the 4 outside holes. So we'll just place that roughly in position. Now we're not going to tighten anything up at this stage. So I'm just going to pop a bolt through in the top of one side, just loosely. That'll hold it there. And again, bolts from the inside to the outside I find is the best. So bolt there. Again, next bolt, line up. We'll start from the center out. We'll get a nut and washer just started and finger tight, just a couple of turns. They're nylock nuts, so they won't go that deep, but just until you hit the nylock. So I'll do that for all 4 bolts, or all 7 bolts, all 4 on the outside, all 3 on the bottom. Once we've done that, we can go around tightening, and we're going to do it from the center out. Okay, so again, I've got a 13mm spanner holding on the inside, 13mm socket on the outside. We'll just nip down the 3 bottom ones first. We'll do the one on a 45-degree angle. Hold on, here we are. We'll just nip that one down. I've done the ones on the other side, so just these last 2. So the next part we're going to fit is this one here. So it fits up and under, and the 2 swivel bolts fit in the brackets on the top here, as you can see. Now when it's supplied, they do put them in back to front. So again, we're going to take the nut and washer off. Okay, and they're going to fit, I'll do that both sides. Okay, so feeding up from underneath, I'm just going to place a little swivel pin through there, through the frame, and let it sit there. And I can do exactly the same with the other side. Just line them up. It can be a bit tricky just to get them lined up. There we are. So washer on, nut on. A little bit fiddly to get your fingers in there, but it is doable. So I'll just show you from this side. Washer on, feed the nut in, and start the nut. So 10mm spanner this time, and I've got a 4mm Allen key, and I'm going to just nip this up just to a point where it's tight. There we are, and as you can see, it still moves. So I'll do the same the other side. Nuts and washers the same as before, and a small shouldered bolt. Just make sure that this is free to move before we start, which it is. There should be friction, but yes, make sure it's free to start. So with this black metal bracket to the left, as I'm looking at it here, you can see the orientation. I'll just fit the bolt through the 2 holes, on with the washer, on with the spring washer, on with the nut, and again, much the same as before, the 10mm spanner, 4mm Allen key. Do that up firmly. There we are. As you can see, it's operating correctly. So the last part on the assembly, you'll see this final bracket. It's got 2 split pins. I'll just squeeze them together and take them out. Now, it doesn't matter which way around with this. We're going to fit the bar down through these 2 holes. Now, what is important is that we line up the 2 sets of holes, but it's quite easy if you look down from the top. We're going to drop the pin down in through the holes. So I'm trying not to get in shot here. There we go. Just jiggle it about. I'll start that side, do the other side as well. So finally, I'll get my pair of pliers and bend over the underside. So during operation, if you should get caught or lean over into the hopper, and this pushes down, it will stop the engine. To allow it to restart, just pull it back up into this armed position. We mentioned the wiring setup for the chute earlier on, but we have an emergency stop also as a backup on the top here. So if you ever want to stop the machine in a hurry, push this button, it will kill the engine. Obviously, if you inadvertently push it and it's in the down position, the engine won't start. So just rotate it, it pops back up. That allows the engine to start again. So we've completely assembled the machine now, right up to the stage where it needs oil and fuel. Oil filler is here. Simply fill it up to the desired level. It's shown in the manual. Fresh oil, and of course, fresh unleaded petrol. Obviously, take the usual precautions when dealing with petrol. Ventilated area, all that sort of thing. And remember, during use, to wear all the appropriate PPE for a machine such as this. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit jcbtools.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and thank you for watching.